If I told you my story, you would hear hope that wouldn't let go. And if I told you my story, you would hear love that never gave up. And if I told you my story, you would hear life, but it wasn't mine. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. If I told you my story, you would hear victory over the enemy. And if I told you my story, you would hear freedom that was won for me. And if I told you my story, you would hear life overcome the grave. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. For the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. If I told you my story, you would hear hope that wouldn't let go. And if I told you my story, you would hear love wasn't mine. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. If I told you my story, you would hear a victory over the enemy. And if I told you my story, you would hear freedom that was won for me. And if I told you my story, you would life overcome the grave. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. For the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him.
You can be seated. Well, as we begin, I just want to start by doing that. As we begin, I just want to welcome every single one of you here with us. I know that there's a number of people online as well, and we're just grateful that you're a part of this time where we remember our friend, our father, our lover, Dale. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming, but I especially want to thank you, his family. I know, we all know that you had a very intimate, personal burial, and this is important for you too, but this has been so good for me to process saying goodbye, and for those that are here, I'm sure, and those that are online. So thank you for the courage of reworking through all these emotions and giving us the chance to grieve and to celebrate, and the emotions that are mixed in that. I got a special request for those of you that are online. In the format that you're watching, there's an opportunity to write in the comments. If you would just be so kind as to just write your name in there, it's going to serve as a guest book for Dale's family. And that way they'll know that this is who is here, this is who's been a part of this special time. So if you would be willing to do that, we would really appreciate that. My name is Ken, for those of you who don't know me. And when I was a teen, Dale was one of my pastors. And He would hate it if I called him a pastor today, so I'll call him a mentor. He was one of my mentors, and that actually never changed. We were reacquainted a few years after my college days when I became his kid's pastor. They would probably say, it's just Ken, we'll go with mentor. And as the stage of life where I was their youth pastor would come and go and pass, Dale and I really kind of moved into this sweet spot where we were just friends. Which, by the way, as a pastor, is not only very rare, it's actually really, really important. There's only so many congregants that you can go to the pub and have a beer with. And Dale was one of those for me. As friends, we did things that normal friends would do. One of the things we did is we had this stupid hockey pool. I laughed when I heard he was buried in his Jets jersey. And so I wore my Team Canada jersey because it was the one team we had in common to celebrate and honor him today. But this hockey pool that we had, it was filled with times and memories of bad jokes and really just an opportunity to annually make fun of each other and wear our outdated jerseys and such. When Dale was diagnosed with ALS, or as he would like to call it, his preparing for graduation, which you'll pick up throughout the day here. He was now in a motorized vehicle or wheelchair, and we just weren't sure how we were going to do this, get together, and what have you. So to his house we went, and we were a little bit unsure of how just mocking and making fun of each other would go at this stage and time in life. Well, Dale, as you all know, had a sense of humor. Times it was a little bit dark and even perhaps a little bit morbid, if you will. But as we go through the night, early on in the night, I remember him making an absolutely terrible pick. I still today don't know if it was on purpose or not. And in the midst of making that terrible pick, one of us said, Dale, a year ago that guy was benched. Like, what are you doing? To which he, in his Dale-esque way, said something like this, really, with a dramatic pause. Well, with a dramatic pause. That makes me and him both. Great pick, hey? Went through the night just like we always would, making fun of each other and just having a good time. That night was unique in that we went through like that, but ended by praying. A first in that gathering, and yet special. And I'd like to start just like that even now, just to bow for a word of prayer. And so if you join me in that, I'd appreciate it. My holy Papa in heaven, you were good and you were great, and that never changes. And today, we press into who you are. Thank you for that. Jesus, I just ask that for each one here, for each one online, that you would just settle in close and just sit as we process the celebrating and the joy, the laughter, and at the same time the grief and the tears and the sorrow. And Holy Spirit, lead and guide and comfort us all as we spend this time honoring our friend, our dad, our lover. Bless this time, Lord. In your name I ask. Amen. I'm going to invite Amanda to come up. She would like to share with all of you, and that'll be followed by Chris, and then Brad, and then Mark, and they'll each come up at the appropriate time and take us through their part in the service.
I've had 3.5 years to think about what I want to share today, so get comfortable. How do you even begin to summarize a person's life? How do you do it justice? How do you honor a man who worked hard to get everything ready for you so you could manage the best way possible after his departure? How do you portray his intense love for his boys? How do you express the immense gratitude and the incomprehensible grief of living into a diagnosis and walking your last days together? How do you walk each other home? Thank you for being part of our graduation for Dale today. It brings so much love and support to us. We thank all of you who have sent notes, cards, and messages, phoned us, brought food and other pieces of love to our door, and prayed for us. The introverted side of Dale would have loved that times are such that we are having to be creative about being present here and that we are not making a big deal in a large church. And you are each here with us today, online or in person, because of your relationship with Dale or to stand beside us, and we are thankful for you. I can't even begin to express how amazing the help has been through our ALS journey. Joel and Brett, it was an honor to walk beside you through the loss of your dad. And I thank you for what you're doing for us today. Our own families who have stood in the gap with us, siblings and parents who have loved us in every way they could, especially the ones who have revamped their home, their schedules, and most of their world to keep us alive on a daily basis. Nephews and nieces who love Dale very much, and some special nieces who found us feeding pumps and unusual G-tubes, came on holidays with us to help with care, and even petitioned the BC paramedic training program to include some training on vital ALS protocols. The lovely people at the Calgary ALS Society who have walked beside us with empathy and support and a lot of patience, and loaned us tens of thousands of dollars worth of vital equipment, filling Dale's lifelong goal of having as many gadgets as he possibly could. The entire medical team on the 5th floor of the South Health campus, who have been nothing short of amazing. The team at Maximum Healthcare and Mobility and the Seating Clinic, as well as the myriad of professionals who stream through our house regularly, using their skills to make a huge difference in both of our lives, physically and emotionally. You have all become our friends. And of course, the healthcare aides who worked for us, both in Lloydminster and in Calgary, most of whom have just simply become part of our family, especially Samantha, who has faithfully and capably walked solidly beside us for over 2 years and made it exceedingly clear that she was on Team Dale. We thank neighbors who have mowed and shoveled and taken care of the house, friends who have built ramps and cleaned and organized it for us, those who spent Monday evenings philosophizing with us, and the lovely ones who brought communion to us at our home in October, and the private prayer groups who have put quiet words to Paul's exhortation to bear one another's burdens. To our fellow pals, I want you to know how deeply honored Dale was to take this journey with you. And to my fellow Cals, you need to know how much I treasure your continued friendships. It is a sisterhood with a bond that will never diminish. Dale and I once sat down and made a list of all the blessings that ALS has given us. There were many, and they included each of you. We often commented that ALS is cruelly beautiful. Cruel because there is grief in every day, and beautiful because every moment is so rich and precious. We decided early on that if we had to take this journey, we wanted to do it well. Dale said, you can die with ALS or you can live with ALS. So we never failed to notice the collateral beauty. It has been a strange gift to grieve together. Some of you are here because you knew Dale well. Maybe you knew him by the numbers. 47 is how many first cousins he has. I came from a family with 0 first cousins, so it was kind of an adjustment. But they were very important to Dale, and he's the first of his generation to leave this earth. 38, the number of countries we have visited together. 2,300, the number of kilometers he put on his power chair. He didn't sit still very well ever, and that didn't change much when he could no longer stand. 27,000 emails per address, and he had multiple addresses. Maybe you knew him by his strong work ethic or the kind of jobs he had, including managing a newspaper route, farming, which once included swathing a figure eight in the field, and accidentally pitching a crowbar in a mix mill, bridge building, working the oil rigs, sweeping floors, being a printing salesman, a pastor, social worker, manager, scribe, English teacher in Japan, and enjoying the occasional role reversal to be a stay-at-home dad. Maybe you just remember the ancient blue Honda Civic hatchback that had holes in the bottom underneath the floor mats reminiscent of a Flintstone vehicle, and how often he changed the oil. Perhaps in your relationship with him, you got to enjoy his amazing sense of humor. We named all of his equipment and decided to have fun with it. He wouldn't hesitate to say things like, "How many kilometers is this cane rated for?" Or when he went to visit Penny in the hospital, "This is Kane. I left Abel in the car," which was funny on a number of levels. He said, "I am very methodical in an unstructured way." He told people he legally changed his birth date. He said, "Golfing isn't about my score, it's about how many balls I find compared to how many I lose." I'm not really a talking person, at least not in a way that people understand. Only 1 in 50,000 get this disease. I should get a lottery ticket. He'd ask random strangers about speed traps while he was in his power chair. He had a habit of going to Tim Hortons to order just one Timbit. He got a kick out of dressing up as a homeless person and sitting outside of churches on Sunday morning. He liked to occasionally break out into Arabic. He single-handedly kept Doritos, club soda, and sticky notes in business. He enjoyed that when he officiated marriages, he could honestly tell the couple that his marriage license number was 911. That's true. He liked to get us to lean closer and closer to him to understand what he was saying through his ventilator mask, only to finally figure out that he was making up nonsense words. He got us all in wails of laughter when he was navigating from a wheelchair into the YMCA pool and announced to a very concerned lifeguard that he was training for the Olympics. He could turn any trip into a gong show by moonwalking through airport security. And he liked to retell a good joke, always missing some small but important detail, rendering them unfunny and bringing gusts of hysterical laughter out of the rest of us. These are all things he did, but they don't tell about who he was. Dale was a leader, and it didn't scare him to be a leader at work or at home, even if it made him unpopular. Dale was a teacher. He took coming-of-age trips with each of the boys, mentoring them about life and travel, budgeting, journaling, how to talk to managers, how to get locals rates, and how to get cheap flights and upgrades on rooms and cars. He taught them to skate, ski, camp, to cook a perfect steak, build fires and potato guns, drive, play chess and squash and tennis, work hard, love Jesus, love themselves, laugh hard, and laugh at themselves. Dale had courage. It took courage to take a leave of absence from a good job, wave his wife off to Japan a month ahead of himself, and then take that same trip with 3 kids and a large number of suitcases on multiple flights in anticipation of a year in a different culture. He was valiant. He didn't give up ever. He wasn't very good at taking no as an answer. To him, no meant, keep asking in different ways and eventually I'll give in. And he was unbelievably forward-thinking over the course of his disease, always looking for the next piece of equipment, place to go, and thing to accomplish. Dale was curious. His heart was in the Middle East, and he loved learning from the people he met there. He loved the Hebrew way of life. He loved to hear from people in general. And although he didn't like the dissonance of false relationship, he wasn't afraid of what he termed healthy discussions. He was not afraid to be uncomfortable or to watch others be uncomfortable as they worked through their own issues. He was a philosopher. He taught me that when you are wronged or misunderstood, there is a time to stand up for yourself, to vigorously defend the weak or vulnerable, or to talk to a manager, to ask for change, to hold others accountable, but that there's also a time to turn the other cheek, walk away, believe in yourself, and just know who you are. Dale was a character. He could fall asleep at any time in any place. He once woke up halfway through a high school class and discovered that he was writing out the notes to O Canada. He loved referring to his books as his friends. He loved C.S. Lewis, Joel Rosenberg, Sheldon Van Auken, Scott Peck, John Eldridge, and Annie Dillard, to name a few. He wasn't afraid for people to know that he didn't go to kindergarten, or that his college voice teacher described his singing voice as being like a grade 1 learning to read. He was happy to leave a hotel room and go downstairs to give his gloves to the homeless people outside. He was comfortable being an introvert at home and an extrovert on holidays. He taught himself to switch from being a left-handed golfer to being a right-handed golfer so that clubs would be more available to him. He was a member of the United Nations at the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, but almost got himself arrested in Thailand. He had more email address and phone numbers than anyone else, but the guys in his hockey pool knew he still didn't answer calls and texts. He had great wisdom, and we will miss his words of advice and unusual way of looking at things. Dale was spiritual, not religious. He was faithful. Faithful as in character, faithful as in imprinting these qualities onto the hearts of his boys, but also faithful as in full of faith. He believed in the Israelite theology of remembrance and pondering our lives past. He said the ultimate to him would be to live in such a way and be such a person that he wouldn't have to pronounce that he was a Christian. He abhorred the spirit of religiosity and was drawn to genuine people. He disliked spiritual cliches and loved to connect to honest hearts. His preferred identity wasn't actually as a manager, but rather as a pilgrim. And he very clearly stated to me, we get so distracted worshiping the badge of belief that we forget to actually worship God. Over the past 3.5 years, I've had to wrestle with some pretty big questions. I think there are 2 typical responses to hardship. One is to run to God randomly in desperation, which seems fickle, and as Dale used to say, that's just treating God like a vending machine. Or 2, questioning God. Like, why? Where is God when it hurts? And why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? And I think what I've come up with is that that is the wrong question. We're a society of entitlement, and it extends even to our health, and I think the question should actually be the exact opposite. Why in a fallen world do we actually have it so good most of the time? I love what Ken said some time ago in one of his sermons. God is not so much concerned with your happiness as he is with your holiness. So maybe the response to hardship should be less about questioning God and more about growing in holiness. What this has done for me is to change my worldview, actually to extend it from a worldview into an eternity view. And part of that, as we share this rock hurtling through space, is to remember that we are all walking each other to the finish line. Grief was not new to us with the diagnosis of ALS. We were not strangers to loss. We saw our trials strip us down to what we are really devoted to. They teach us to pursue joy and not necessarily happiness. Dale's referred to his philosophy of life as love, learn, and leave a legacy. Instead of unanswered prayers, we tried to focus on the undeserved blessings in our life. Nothing in our birth contracts guaranteed us a long, healthy, or easy life. But it's also true that nothing guaranteed our blessings, travels, family support, friends, or life of comfort. So grieving is a privilege because it means that what we lost is of great value, which means we had great blessing. We still had hours of gut-wrenching sadness, weeping together. But Dale was the iron that sharpened me, the hug that comforted me, the smile that loved me, the adventurer that broadened my world, the push that made me reason and think, the wind beneath my wings, and my best friend. There was such honor and intimacy in taking care of him, and such relief not to be doing that anymore. Relief for me and relief for him. I tend to grieve like Dale belongs to me, but he doesn't. He belongs to his author. Dale was strong on the word covenant for marriage and referred to it often. He carried half of my heart. And so I will thank friends and family to be patient as I take the time to rediscover who I am and to start the process of regrowing the other half of my heart. remembering that I still have covenant with my author. And so I say to him, as he often did when someone left, Shalom. I will miss you, Dale. Happy graduation. Meet you under the bridge.
Thank you, Amanda. It's reassuring to know that Dale's still with us in you, and we'll continue to treasure that. My name is Chris Ernst, and I've been an acquaintance of Dale for a little while, and I'm honored, Amanda and Jason, Andrew and Jonathan, that I have the privilege of honoring Dale and in some way providing the last word, which was something I rarely experienced in my conversations with Dale. So I appreciate this opportunity. Dale Russell Block, age 60, of Lloydminster, Alberta, graduated to his forever home peacefully on Monday, November the 23rd in Calgary, Alberta, surrounded by his family. Dale was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, to John and Gloria Block on April 30th, 1960. He went to school in Winnipeg, OSIS, graduated from Carman Collegiate High School, and took his post-secondary education at Winnipeg Bible College, now Providence University and College and Theological Seminary. He worked in numerous jobs, including as a youth pastor and child protection worker, and most recently as manager of children's services. Dale loved camping, hiking, mountain biking, traveling, reading, and spurring others on in deep conversation. But his most favorite times were those spent being with his family. Dale is survived by his wife of 33 years, Amanda, of Lloydminster, 3 sons, Jason Block of Calgary, Andrew and wife Kenda of Strathmore, Jonathan and Elena of Lloydminster, his mother Gloria Block of Calgary, brothers Gerald and wife Grace of Saskatoon, Eldon and wife Cindy of Sherwood Park, Dwight and Heidi of Calgary, numerous nieces, nephews, and their children. He is predeceased by his father, John Block of Calgary. He is also predeceased by his 6 unborn children, Samara, Isaac, Maria, Daniel, Gideon, and Hope. As many of you know, Dale loved to travel. He was invigorated by the adventure of experiencing new places, cultures, and people. He found his travels abroad, or just around the corner, most fulfilling when he could share them with others, particularly his family. He delighted in recounting stories of the people they had met, the things they had done, and how he had been impacted by those experiences. Even in the tightening grip of his illness, Dale reveled in spending time with his family, traveling to his favorite location on the island of Roatan. So it makes perfect sense that Dale appreciated our time on earth to be a series of interwoven journeys as we travel from what we are to what we're meant to be. Mark Twain said, "The 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why." Dale had an enduring sense of purpose because he'd figured out long ago why he was on this journey. Dale and I began our journey some time ago in the fall of 1980. At the time, it seemed we couldn't be more different. Dale was a quiet, thoughtful, and dedicated student who was perfectly at ease in his own company, wearing red socks and worn-out sandals. And I, an outgoing city kid, distracted by just about anything around me, seeking out new friends and sporting white tube socks and Adidas. Despite our obvious differences, we developed a connection, and it wasn't long before our diversities became a source of humor and good-natured mocking. As we discovered, interests and qualities became known to us that were more aligned than disparate. We spent those years at college, sometimes in different social circles, but always finding time to deepen the emerging camaraderie we had. Those years of learning, social exploits, and misadventures became the foundation of a friendship that would become a profound influence on my life for the next 36 years, despite our divergent tastes in footwear fashion. Following our college graduations, our journeys led us both to Lloydminster. We shared an apartment with his brother Gerald and worked in the oil patch. We enjoyed the shared interests we had discovered during that time as single buds: tennis, hockey, football, camping, reading, skiing, eating, and music. Dale taught me to play chess, though as it turns out, he was a poor teacher, for I never won a single match against him. Don't laugh, many of you haven't either. For the next several years, we journeyed together, expanding our horizons and developing connections in the community. Dale became involved in Southridge Church and cultivated numerous close friendships that would endure over the many years to come. At a time, I wrestled with some significant personal challenges. However, the one constant was the influence and impact Dale had on my life. As I stood at a painful crossroads, he was there standing beside me, providing brotherly support and encouraged me to take the road less traveled. Relationships, as you know, were always an integral element of Dale's journeys, and he had a gift for connecting with people. Conversations were the building blocks upon which his relationships were formed, and Dale could interact with anyone, from family, close friends, and colleagues to complete strangers, such as a storekeeper in Egypt, and everyone in between. His ability to engage with others and draw them out was unimpeded by the self-consciousness that many of us experience when meeting new people or reconnecting with old acquaintances. I was always amazed at his ease in awkwardness or unfamiliarity, which I suspect enabled him to initiate in a way that invited others to respond easily. Every conversation had value because every person had value. Though Dale and my journey eventually diverged geographically, we never stopped walking together. Our careers and our locations changed, but our conversations never really ended. They just paused and picked up again as if no time had elapsed since we last talked. Clearly, Dale's most profound journey began in Lloydminster when he met Amanda, and they started their life together. Initially as a couple, then as their children joined their family. Dale was consumed with his relationship with Amanda and their children. We'd spend countless hours in conversation, Holly and I, with you, Amanda and Dale, sometimes serious, often hilarious, and occasionally unintelligible. Trading stories of our and our children's victories and defeats, accomplishments and disappointments, or just the insane world in which we found ourselves. Amanda, you, Jason, Andrew, Jonathan, you were his life. Being a husband and father and living those relationships was the nucleus of his world, and he loved you more than he could express. It was through his journey as a husband and father that the depth of Dale's character became even more evident to me. These were some of the qualities that I think back and recall. Humor. Humor is joy's first cousin. Dale loved to laugh at himself, at me, at life around him, at the absurdities of living in a crazy and broken world. He wasn't a great joke teller, but he was an amazing storyteller and could recount a yarn that would have us laughing until the tears flowed. Hunger to learn and understand. Dale frequently described himself as a student of life. He was never satisfied with just acquiring knowledge. He had a hunger to understand. It was reflected in the books he read, good list, Amanda, and the music he chose to listen to. It was evident in his relationships and the conversations upon which those relationships were formed. Dale always sought to understand others rather than being understood himself. Truth and conviction, living in honesty and integrity, standing on his beliefs and values even when it was difficult to do so. Dale was true to his God, his family, and himself. Courage. Dale was certainly a man of courage, standing firm when he experienced uncertainty, fear, and pain. He never withdrew from living on life's ragged edge. He understood our journeys are sometimes messy, unpredictable, and even unfair. But he never let circumstances paralyze him from moving forward. Love and devotion. First and foremost, to Amanda and his sons, but also to his family, his mom and dad, Gerald, Eldon, and Dwight, and their families, his spiritual family, and his friends, the community around him. He recognized his world expanded as he gave of himself and served others. With the onset of ALS 3.5 years ago, Dale began another journey, one that brought tremendous physical, emotional, and spiritual challenges. But the path he walked deepened his relationships and the impact he had upon those closest to him. The manner in which he chose to this crisis in his walk served to bring those qualities of love and devotion, truth and conviction, wisdom and courage into sharper focus. He fought fearlessly to spend as much time as he could with his family, determined to let go of this world on his own terms. We witnessed his grasp of the eternal nature of his journey throughout his life, but most poignantly during his illness. He fittingly coined his approaching passing as merely the graduation and a continuation of his walk with his Creator. At every point in his journey, Dale touched the lives of those with whom he came in contact. As a son, a brother, a student, rig pig, youth pastor, child protection worker, salesman, manager, husband, father, or friend, Dale left an indelible mark upon the people around him. We knew he had gained something. We knew we had gained something for having been connected with him. Perhaps Dale's journey can be summed up in one of his favorite verses from the Old Testament prophet Micah. He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. Dale, we remain here with the legacy of your journeys, the memories of your involvement in our lives, and the dull ache of missing your presence with us. Your love, wisdom, and guidance have been an invaluable and irreplaceable part of each of our journeys. I firmly believe, however, the relationships we nurture in our shared faith in our Creator, like we ourselves, are eternal. The journeys we shared with you here and the conversations that we have temporarily paused will be picked up right where we left off, as if no time had passed at all. Bruce Coburn concludes one of his songs in such a way that I will always recur my journey with you, Dale, and the time we were able to walk together. He says, through these channels and words, I want to touch you deep down where you live, not for power, but because I love you. So love the Lord, and in him love me too. And in him go your way, and I'll be right there with you, leaving no footprints when we go. No footprints when we go, only where we've been, a faint and fading glow. Amanda, I have no doubt when you see Dale again following your graduation, he'll be standing beside Jesus with Samara, Isaac, Maria, Daniel, Gideon, and Hope to welcome you to the final and grandest leg of your journey. Peace be with you.
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. And right now I'm losing bad. I've stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. But right now I just can't. It's easy to sing when there's nothing to bring me down. But what will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? Oh, I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Well, a good thing, a little faith is all I have right now. But God, when you choose to leave mountains unmovable, oh, give me the strength to be able to sing, it is well with my soul. Oh, I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. Oh, I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. You've been faithful, you've been good all of my days. Jesus, I will cling to you. Come with me, 'cause I know you're able, and I know you care. Oh, I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone.
is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
I was so relieved you took the mask off. I'm one of these people that has not adjusted. Sorry, that was personal, Amanda. I apologize. I'm a person that really wants to help, and I haven't known how to help Dale and Amanda. There are many people that have skills, that can build houses and put stuff together. You ask the teacher to read. So this is a small way that I can help, and it's my honor. I've been asked to read some thoughts from people who aren't able to be here in person. The first one is from Dale's cousin, Val. I was asked to say a few words in honor of Dale. I am so honored to do this. Growing up in a large family of Isaac and Ella Block means being one of many first cousins. We are so blessed to have each other, all of us. I'm so glad Dale was one of my special cousins. It was at the family gatherings that Dale and I bonded. At one of those gatherings, Dale and Harold were trying to throw me in the lake. I'm not sure if they succeeded, but I did succeed in giving Dale the best black eye ever, which he never let me forget. Amanda, your and Dale's wedding was so beautiful. He was so handsome, and you were so beautiful and still are. Then the horse and carriage. Amanda, you and Dale were such a blessing and encouragement to Al and I. We enjoyed laughter, football, and serious times. When we stopped to visit you in Calgary, we always left so encouraged, blessed, and challenged. Dale is gone too soon. But we know he has no pain and is with Jesus. My deepest sympathies to your family, Amanda, Jason, Andrew, and Kenda, Jonathan and Elena, Auntie Gloria and families, praying for God's comfort and strength. Isaiah 41:10, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. Love, Val. Another reading from Kim Newell, who is a co-worker from Children's Services. I've been thinking of Dale a lot over the last couple weeks and have been sharing stories with many colleagues who have had the privilege to work with him. One that stands out was when we had to take some mandatory training in Calgary, and Dale didn't think it was feasible for him living in Lloydminster and me living in Wainwright to travel there by car. So Dale did a cost analysis on travel time, best use of manager's time due to travel time, hotels, meals, vehicle rentals, etc., to drive versus chartering a plane from the small municipal airport in Wainwright. So after Dale submitted his proposal to our senior manager, followed up by lengthy phone calls to convince upper management that this was the most cost-effective option, it was approved. Best for the organization. So Dale booked the plane, organized the pickup and drop-off times, had a taxi ready in Calgary to take us to our training. We were all ready to go. And of course, the night before, we got a dump of snow, leaving the airstrip covered with snow, and it looked like our trip was going to be canceled. But no, resourceful Dale gently nudged me to wake up my husband at around 4:30 a.m. He was the superintendent for the MD of Wainwright, to get his graders out to the airport early that morning to clear the airstrip. So of course, this is what happened. The small municipal airport runway was clear of snow, and we were ready for takeoff. What I didn't know was that it was a 4-person plane. I was terrified. My children were young, and all I wanted to do was get in my car and drive to Calgary. But when Dale showed up, he had a surprise, his son Jason with him. Yes, apparently his son wanted to be a pilot, and Dale had arranged the whole time for his son to have the experience of co-piloting this plane. So off we went. I wanted to throw up the whole way to Calgary, but not Dale. He had the biggest, proudest dad smile on his face. Just ask Eldon if a GOA employee chartered a plane by convincing senior management it was the better way to travel nowadays, it would just never happen. How Dale did it, I will never know to this day. So it was never about a cost analysis, doing up a meticulous proposal, talking to senior management on long drives, convincing them it made best sense for the organization. It was always about the opportunity to give his son an exceptional experience. Man, I got to pick up my dad game. That was Dale. His teaching opportunities, him going to extra lengths to convince you of his ideas and how they made the better sense, moving obstacles out of the way. So when Dale said, "Let's just not tell anyone, my son came also," I knew then that he left that part out of his proposal. This is a story I have never shared, as Dale asked me not to. Oh, thanks, Val. Plus, I thought we both might get fired. Just one of the many memories of Dale and his love of his boys. Another one from Dale's cousin, Dale. I'm the other Dale Block. The Dale we're remembering and celebrating today is the original Dale Block. We're cousins, and I'm the younger one. You know you come from a large family when two cousins end up with the same name. I like to think I was named after Dale, but I'm not sure if that's true. But it brings me enormous pride to be his namesake. Having the same name can be a problem, though. Dale always bugged me that I got the better Dale.block Gmail address, while he got stuck with BlockDale25. In the last few years, I'd regularly receive emails or texts meant for the original Dale. The texts often came from Dwight, asking what I'd like picked up from Costco. Dale and I came to develop a bit of a naming convention. I became Dale the Younger, while he was Dale the Elder. He called me Dale Benson, son of Ben, and himself Dale Johnson, son of John. For me, he was Dale my cousin, Dale my mentor, Dale my inspiration, and I'm so thankful and honored to say this, Dale my friend. There's nothing good about ALS. It is a brutal journey, and I only know a tiny fraction of what Dale lived with each day or the hours of care involved for those living alongside him. And yet Dale's diagnosis had an unintended consequence for which I will be forever grateful. When Dale's need for care increased, he and Amanda moved to Calgary, where we lived. After providentially running into each other in the hospital where my wife Dawn works, Dawn and Amanda proposed that the four of us meet weekly together. One of the goals of our gatherings was to avoid letting the evening being dominated by ALS. Their lives were being taken over by the disease, and what we all needed most was a reprieve from it, to support one another and be distracted by rich conversation. Our group took on the name Monday Musings, and muse we did. Our discussions included topics such as faith, theology, philosophy, politics, sexuality, morality, personality, marriage, and parenting. One of my favorite nights was doing the Strengths Finder assessment together, and then analyzing ourselves and one another through the lens of our top 5 strengths. The strengths that complemented another's, or the strengths that led to conflict. This was Dale's idea. On Monday nights, no topic was taboo, no challenge unacceptable. We shared our minds and our hearts. We laughed and cried. We ate, drank, and were merry. We supported each other through life's challenges. Dale and Amanda taught Dawn and me valuable lessons in marriage and parenting, what it means to be supportive, gracious, flexible, and adventurous, even while facing life's greatest challenges. When I think of our time together, I'm reminded of the verse from Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so friends sharpen one another. During these last few years, through these evenings and other one-on-one outings together, I got to know Dale as more than just my older cousin. I got to know him as a critical thinker and voracious reader, as a rebel and renegade. He did not accept status quo, but challenged social and societal norms. We found camaraderie through our questioning mindset and fierce independence. Dale had the rare quality of being a great listener. He truly heard what you said, pondered it, and then with utmost respect questioned it, always probing into the deeper, wow, are we all in all the same conversations? This is amazing. Sorry. And always probing into the deeper meaning of things. In every conversation, he was fully attentive, even while his body wasted away, and while he struggled with pain and the discomfort of finding his breath, he was fully present with you, not wanting to miss a word. Dale could drop a one-liner like no one else. I'm sure we've already heard a few at the service today, the sort of thing someone would get tattooed on themselves. Some of us probably will. One of my favorites is this one. We are all palliative. He coined this one shortly after diagnosis, after being told his condition was palliative. Fighting the label and refusing to be told what to do, he proved that he was no more palliative than the rest of us. He continued to swim at the pool, and I remember vividly the time I threw balls for him to hit with a bat, even when he found it challenging merely to stand. He celebrated food and regularly visited his favorite restaurants. He read books and watched sports, sharing with us the excitement of the Raptors run of 2019. And of course, he and Amanda continued to travel more ambitiously than most able-bodied folks as they gallivanted through the Western Hemisphere, a busload of supplies with them wherever they went. Nothing, certainly not ALS, was going to stop him from being himself and seeking out his passions. He wasn't going to miss a thing. As Amanda and his boys can attest more than I, he fought relentlessly over and over again to stay here and soak up every valuable moment. There is a photo of Dale and me somewhere. Despite hours of searching, I can't find it, but it's etched forever into my memory. It's one of those cool square photos with the white border from the early 80s. Cool. Toddler me sits upon Dale's shoulders as he poses for the picture in front of my parents' home in Red Deer. Dale is young and powerful. His skin is tanned like he just returned from one of his exotic adventures or from working on the rigs, and his mid-length dark hair is stylishly messy. He is wearing just the right amount of faded denim, and his black mustache is epic. That man is cool. What shines through it all is his smile and the brightness of his eyes, an outward expression of his passionate love of life. Isaac Newton wrote, and Dale would laugh at me for quoting Newton here, "If I have ever seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants." In this photo, I am literally on the shoulders of a giant I now see, and I know I see further because of him. He is a giant in my mind, someone who carried himself with integrity and humility. Even while ALS took away his physical strength, it took neither his inner strength nor his pride. Sitting on his wheelchair, unable to move his arms or feed himself, and breathing through a tube, he carried himself with dignity and grace, an astounding lack of ego, and total surety in himself. Even while in great pain, he was fully alive. He probed, he challenged, he explored, and to quote one of his favorite singers, he kicked at the darkness till it bled daylight. I feel robbed, as I know we all do. We lost Dale far too soon, but his strength and his love of life continue on, no doubt. I'm inspired by it, and I will seek to emulate him. I see it in you, Amanda. You are a world changer, a seeker of adventure, and a passionate and empathetic lover of people. You will continue to be just that. I see it in Dale's pride and joy, his sons. He taught these boys to be men, and I will see his strength and vitality shining through them. Dawn and I will love you all. Wow, that's hard. You do awesome at this. Woo! Another one is a tribute to Dale from Trevor Peacock. When I first met Dale, it was as the new youth pastor back in the 80s in Lloydminster at Southridge Community Church. His impact on my life in these formative years is something I'm so thankful for, still over 30 years later. He taught me what it was to be an authentic believer. He first modeled it. I never once wondered if Dale was just going through the motions or trying to please man. Dale also had the ability to see when a person simply was giving an answer to appease man and when someone was saying something because they genuinely believed it. I needed this in my life. I knew the right answers, but the heart wasn't always as willing. Dale taught me what it meant to be truthful about doubts and to strive for answers. I had plenty of one-on-one conversations with him that exposed my belief system and challenged me to be a follower of Jesus Christ, who was fully committed. In my first year out of high school, I remember having many conversations with Dale as I sought direction in my life. Flashbacks from tennis courts, watching football games, walks and conversations in Dale's office quickly came to mind as I think back 30 years ago, and I realized what a huge investment of time that Dale put in my life. It was in that year that I felt a call to vocational ministry. Even then, Dale's impact on my life is still being felt today. He helped me have a realistic view of the challenges of ministry. I still pass on to others what he said to me. If you can serve the Lord in another way rather than full-time Christian ministry, then do that. I should have read this first because I would have tagged an amen right there. He is helping me to understand the cost involved, and not having a fairy tale perspective on things is a big reason why I'm still serving the Lord in full-time ministry 30 years later. I went off to college that year, but my relationship with Dale continued as the Lord directed our lives in different directions and we didn't see each other as often. It did not change my anticipation of another visit when they did come. 10 years later, I got married and had the privilege of having Dale as a groomsman at my wedding. Over the last 20 years, I greatly enjoyed our times together. I could have that comfortability to speak my heart and mind with my dear brother and always came away encouraged and challenged by Dale's questions. As heartbreak entered both our homes this last decade, I appreciated Dale's words of hope, strength, encouragement, and zeal for life, and the wrestling involved on this side of glory. I will forever have fond memories of our last 2 times together. Watching one last hockey game together as Jason and Dale and my daughter Hope and I sat in the handicapped seating together. Then there was that last lunch as Dale and I talked about life for 2 very quick hours. As always, I came away encouraged, and I came away encouraged by my dear brother. His zeal for life and his authenticity have forever impacted my life. I'm not sure where my life would be today without meeting Dale those 30 plus years ago, but I will be forever grateful that it was the Lord's goodwill to bring Dale to become my youth pastor. He was always there when I needed to talk and with someone about the deeper things of life. When I needed someone who would truly listen and not just give pat answers. When I needed someone who would tell me the truth. When I needed someone I knew I could trust. I love you, brother, and I cannot wait for our next conversation in glory, where there will always be good news and we will worship our King together. It's from Trevor Peacock. Amanda afforded me the opportunity to share, and I last night I was writing furiously, and then when I came in here and all the things that I heard, I'm sitting there smiling, and the only thing that kind of stayed with me that I used to work in the Northwest Territories. One thing I realize now, I didn't realize how similar Dale and I were. Up there was very challenging, and things were falling apart much like now, and it was very stressful. And somebody came along. You ever notice when things are the worst, people sometimes share advice with you that when you think about it, it's absolutely horrible. They mean well. And I had a teacher, retiring teacher, came up to me in my class and said, "Mark, don't stress about it. It won't matter in 100 years anyway." And as I walked in here, and I was thinking about this last night, and I'm reading from Trevor, and I'm seeing your family, and I see Ken. I am so grateful that I had a man that proved to me that that was the worst and most false advice ever. It is so amazing. I never pictured being forced to move to Lloydminster. I don't want to make Lloyd, if you're watching at home, it's a beautiful town. Border markers. But when you're forced to move somewhere, and I remember walking into that youth room, and there was a strange guy there that seemed way too chipper. And a horrible carpet. It was quite the youth room. And he come in, and he was way too chipper. And he worked so hard to get to know me. And that was off-putting at the start. But it was so genuine. There were no barriers. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And then you fast forward, and my family was falling apart very publicly. And Dale and Amanda, in small and big ways, were there and walked. And here we are decades later. And when I'm working with families at risk, when I'm standing there with somebody who's going to commit suicide, those moments, those times with Dale and his wife, they're with me. They matter long after we're gone. Then as time went further, and I wish I had read that quote earlier, somebody thought it was a great idea to join formal ministry. There were a lot of great things to it, but you get to experience things about human nature that don't fit on a Hallmark card. Did I put that kindly enough that I'm not getting anybody in trouble? And the part that I loved was Dale and I had a conversation a long time ago about how messed up we probably did with youth in the church, and it ties to flannel graphs. Anybody here ever seen a flannel graph before? I see people nodding. Sorry, if this is not how this is supposed to go, I apologize. But to make the conversation short was, a lot of the toughest things in life we would teach in Sunday school, and we would put it on a flannel graph with the same 4 colors, or 3, I'm colorblind, I don't know how many there were, and it would make the toughest, most real, most powerful things of life seem empty, or there was no life to it. And I remember having a conversation with Dale about that back in my teen years, and it continued in coffee shops and up until the last time I had a chance to spend with him. And going back to that horrible life, that the things you don't do matter, Dale and Amanda never, I don't think they sat down to say, this is how we're going to transform the absolute universe. They walked a very real faith. There's nothing flannel graph about them. They were very open. Their struggles to have a family, to relationship issues, to everything right down to the very end. When Dale was there struggling to breathe and make sense of anything, they just shared this whole struggle with everybody, the real faith that's required to step forward in a world that often sucks. And so this is just my honor to share with you, Amanda, that every moment, small and big, from when you were waiting for your amazing sons to come along to this very moment, all of it matters. The good, the bad, that you've filled people here and all over. Every day I step forward to impact another life. It is in large part because of your husband, because he walked with me. So in closing, one of the last times I had a chance to spend with Dale. Oh, Amanda, you left out one. I don't want to correct you. This is your day. She talked about languages that Dale learned to speak. One language that many people can't stand, most people cannot do it, but Dale and my mom do it fantastically, is a language, you probably heard of it, social work. Has anybody ever heard that language before? Wow. When he became a social worker, and he had all these acronyms and all this other type of stuff, that never ever clouded his love for people. It didn't matter which part of his journey, that stayed the same. But in closing, I'll say the last time I was with Dale, we were spending some time together, and it was funny. I could not see anything about ALS. That's just how amazing he was. It was us. And you know when you're having a good time and you're thinking about one thing and you're thinking it's going to be light, and then Dale surprises you with one of them questions that you do whatever. And so we're sitting there, and I'm thinking about food, and his son is setting up a TV for football or do whatever. And out of the blue, he just looks at me and he goes, "How's your spirit?" And that's one thing I'm going to miss, is I will no longer be able to tell him directly. But I'm proud to say, thanks to Dale and Amanda, and how God has used their real faith, the very opposite of that flannel graph faith I mentioned, that I can say my spirit is battered. I am tired. But thanks to the way you've lived your faith and your impact in my life, I know I will be okay.
I listened to a lot of advice of Dale's over the years. I never took the do something other than vocational ministry. That said, walking with God, with Jesus, has become for me the single most healing and fulfilling and inspiring part of my life, especially in 2020. And interestingly enough, in Dale's very challenging 3.5-year final exam that he would write as he was preparing for his graduation, as he and I would meet, there was not a visit that went by where he did not talk about his life verse, Micah 6:8, that was already mentioned for us. Every single one of those visits we talked through that verse. And before I once again read it to you, I want to share this. For Dale, his journey in all of life was really headed toward that graduation, as he was journeying and journeyed with God. Now, I want to be really clear. This was way beyond religion or church or terms like Christianity. He could not and did not want to be defined by such ridiculous, churchy terms that folks tag to themselves to describe their faith. Some of us would use these terms to describe what we believe as a means to say they know something more or something in greater measure than other churchy type folk with their now newer or much longer extravagant name. But for Dale, it had nothing to do with labels. Dale was never one for tradition or for doing things because they had always been done. And I admit, as one of those vocational ministers, that much of the modern church is built on these things. And yet that is exactly what and why I admire Dale so much for. In Dale, I would see someone who would not embrace these things that we are supposed to, but rather journey through life because we are called to. To some, I think he was just far behind in the matters of defining and defending faith and relationship, and particular relationship with God and what that meant. And quite frankly, I know that that totally irritated them. For me, he was actually just so far ahead. Ahead in that he longed to just really get back to what mattered. A commitment, or maybe better said as the word Amanda already used, a covenant with what I would call the ancient way of Jesus. It's an ancient way that, in my humble opinion, the church and the churchy type folk, of which I'm a part, would do well to embrace again. This way, this ancient way of Jesus, is the very message of Micah 6:8, which says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good and what the Lord requires, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Those first two phrases, to act justly and to love mercy, I mean, how perfect, hey? One cannot get into the career and the calling that Dale had as someone in child service without being a man who would act justly and love mercy. They go hand in hand. And as Dale's friend, I knew that his work was not just work. It was his mission, his call. It was what and how God wanted to leverage him, if you will, for the sake of others. So for those of you who are churchy folk like me, this is really, really important for us. See, the ancient way of Jesus is a walk that's intended to be woven throughout our entire life. It cannot be defined by terms like religion, or church, or Christian. Knowing all this about Dale, I called a few of his co-workers this week. I had never met them or haven't spoken to them in person, but I wanted to chat. I wanted to hear their take on Dale as one who worked in child services and protective services. Words I got were driven, hardworking, passionate, leader, and kind. These were words that came up again and again as I made these calls. Another common theme, though, that I heard as I was addressing each of them was that he had a way about himself in meetings with people. One of them used the term, he spoke this language called Dale-ese. What they were referring to is that when an issue needed to be brought up and spoken into, Dale would ensure that said issue was brought up and spoken into. And yet he would do so in such a way that you knew there was love and respect. For those of you who are watching, who are part of child services and protective services, believe it or not, these conversations happen in church as well. I, as one who would serve as the pastor of Dale's church, would have these types of conversations where he knew he had to bring something up and understand what or why I was making a decision I was making. But you need to know that I never once, as Dale would bring those things up, never once doubted that Dale loved and respected me. This is a very, very rare gift for someone who serves as a pastor. The first phrase, act justly, was significant to him in that he longed to raise 3 warriors. It was like woven throughout the theme of what it meant to be a father for him. He wanted to raise warriors who would know what it means to stand for justice, and if necessary, speak for justice. I remember him going to a game. I can't remember if it was football or hockey, but a game with the 3 of you in Edmonton, and he came back, and I went up to him and I said, "So how was the game?" He said, "Well, like the rest or the other half of the stadium, we had to take a bathroom break, and as we all know, when you attend sporting events, there's those who break the seal far too early, and apparently someone had done that, and rushed to the front of the line and cut his boys off. This was not just. A moment to teach a lesson on being a warrior." So when I asked him, "How'd the game go?" he looked at me and said, "Well, I almost got in a fight." As he spoke to said person, no doubt in his calm, loving, and respectful way, said, "Back of the line," which did not go over well. But there was Dale, that was Dale, looking for those moments to teach and to pass on what it means to be a warrior for justice. Anyways, 20, 25 years later, I don't know how many years it's been since that game that I knew he almost got in a fight. I'm ensuring that you all had a chance to go pee first. When your boys describe you, and this word was in regards to his journey with ALS, as a fighter, as a great man and as a leader, you have passed on what it means to be a warrior and to stand for justice. The second phrase, to love mercy, is a phrase that means a lot to me because Dale had a heart for the underdog. When I was a teen, there was a dark time in my life where I hated myself, didn't want to be alive. Dale came along my side, took me out every other week and just talked. I know Jesus saved me, but that saved my life. I found this definition of mercy. It is a love that responds to human need in an unexpected or unmerited way. Dale was a gift from God for me as a young man, and quite simply responded to human need, even to that awkward teenager. But maybe even more than that moment, speaking of a love that responds to a human need in an unexpected way, in a world where a lot of couples are faking it, Dale and Amanda would be real with us. And as I became an adult and entered into a marriage relationship, Janelle and I really needed to find a couple who had strong wills and yet was committed to working through it. And Dale and Amanda together would process the hard, the difficult, the outright ugly parts of marriage, but also communicate to us that it's worth it. And yeah, it took a bit of crazy willingness to hear the raw and the real, but they really believed that there was nothing more beautiful than to be with your best friend if you were willing to fight for it. And like I said, in a world where very few are honest about this real battle, Dale and Amanda met that need for us. I know that Dale was fiercely loyal to you, Amanda, and that the covenant that you guys made before God was a commitment that was a lifelong covenant. And I know that as he was nearing graduation, as you guys told me, that there was nothing more important than knowing that, Amanda, you were cared for. But that said, I know we've been talking a lot about Dale, and I yet feel just it's important to recognize you, Amanda, you and Dale became one. I just want you to know that these last 3.5 years, you have shown me what a real fighter and a great woman of God and a leader looks like. If I could be half the person you were these last 3.5 years, I'd consider myself a success as a man. Thank you for modeling what it is to be a fighter, a great woman, and a leader. The final phrase is to walk humbly with your God. And for Dale, this really was an embracing the ancient way of Jesus, where one's faith and spiritual journey was just lived out day by day in all situations, regardless of situation or circumstance that they bring, including battle with ALS. See, in life, we are intended and created and designed to journey, to really walk with God. And all the seasons of Dale's life, and in particular this last one, it was the ancient way of walking with Jesus that I know gave him strength. There are countless references in the scriptures of our walk. Interestingly enough, they start in the garden with God walking. It ends in the book of Revelation with God walking with the people whom he loves. And Jesus, he came because barriers, self-inflicted barriers, had been put up. And so 2,000 years ago, he ensured that we could once again walk with God in the way that God originally intended for us when he created us. He did this by giving his life, a sacrifice for these self-inflicted barriers that churchy folk called sin. Sin that would cause us to stumble, to lose our way, to just head off in our own past. But Jesus, he came to ensure we could come back, fulfill that ancient way and walk with God. And frankly, Jesus wasn't concerned about religious terms or tags himself. He actually stood against them. He just simply wanted to walk with us. And Dale knew that. He knew the forgiveness, the freedom, the healing, the wholeness that walk we have faith that Jesus would bring. An ancient way that we would all do well to consider and embrace. Interestingly enough, as has been mentioned, Dale had a passion for the Middle East, the very land that Jesus literally walked, and he loved learning of the Hebrew way. I do not think that this is a coincidence, particularly in light of that life verse, to walk humbly with thy God. And I do know that he would do everything in his power as often as he could to get there, to continue that walk there. Which leads me to wrap up with this. He's graduated. He's finally, in all of its mysterious and yet marvelous ways, has it been revealed to us fully through Jesus, fully, completely embracing and walking that ancient way as he perfectly walks with Jesus. And so I thank you, Dale, for teaching me this ancient way. And until I reach my graduation, shalom, big brother.
An elegant song won't hold up long when the palace falls and the parlor's gone. We all must leave, but it's not the end. We'll meet again at the festival of friends. Smiles and laughter and pleasant times. There's love in the world, but it's hard to find. I'm so glad I found you. I'd just like to extend an invitation to the festival of friends.
Some of us live and some of us die. Someday God's going to tell us why. Open your heart and grow with what life sends. That's your ticket to the festival of friends. Like an imitation of a good thing past, these days of darkness surely will not last. Jesus was here and is coming again to lead us to his festival of friends. Black snake highway, sheet metal ballet. It's just so much snow on a summer day. Whatever happens, it's not the end. We'll meet again at the festival of friends.
If I speak in words like angels, or climb the highest peak, fight for fame, build my name so the world remembers me. It'll fade like stars in morning, a whisper in a crowd. It will all dissolve to nothing, if that's what my life's about. So I pray, Lord, make me a man who loves his kids and loves his wife. Lord, make me a man who always stands for what is right, who's strong enough to fight a war by falling to his knees. 'Cause that's the kind of man, that's the kind of man I wanna be. Slow to speak and quick to listen, doesn't fear and doesn't boast, full of faith, full of joy, always holding on to hope, faithful through the darkness, even when the night is long, knowing in my weakness is where you show you're strong. Lord, make me a man who loves his kids and loves his wife. Lord, make me a man who always stands for what is right, who's strong enough to fight a war by falling to his knees. 'Cause that's the kind of man, that's the kind of man I wanna be. That's the kind of man I wanna be. When my life is over and I cross the crystal sea, let the ones I leave behind say they saw you in me. Lord, make me a man who loves his kids and loves his wife. That's the kind of man I wanna be. I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever, forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever, forever worship you. I can only imagine. If I told you my story, you would hear hope that wouldn't let go. And if I told you my story, you would hear love that never gave up. And if I told you my story, you would hear life, but it wasn't mine. justice was served and where mercy wins. All the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. If I
Well, on behalf of Amanda, the boys, the family, I just want to thank every one of you for being here. For those of you that are have joined us digitally, just one more time, if you came in the middle perhaps and you missed the beginning, if you would be so kind as just to write your name in the comments, just serve as a guest book for the family to just know that you've been a part of this day. Well, I'd like to wrap us up in a word of prayer and invite you to stand with me as I do so. Papa in heaven, thank you for this time to reflect, to laugh, to cry, to giggle, to hold back those sloppy sneezes, and remember your dearly loved adopted son, Dale, and the gift he's been to so many of us. Jesus, thank you for showing us what it means to walk with God, and for using Dale to demonstrate for many of us, for me for certain, what it means to know your ancient way. And Spirit, I pray you would lead and guide as we move out from here. And over you, Amanda, Jason, Andrew, and John, all of you watching, I just say the Lord bless you and protect you, make his face shine on you, be gracious, grant you much favor and peace. Amen. Shalom.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in all of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine.